Shock Monkey Radio is entertainment for adults, by adults, and the views and opinions expressed here do not reflect upon the sponsors or FXBG Public Radio. For additional information, please refer to the United States Bill of Rights. Stand warned. Matthew 18:9 says, "If your eye causes you to sin, pluck it out." And when I read this passage, the only thing I can think of is that I think Jesus was trying to create a pirate army for the Lord. And I don't think anyone fell for it. You know, so everyone like turned to each other. It's like, does he want us to like pluck our eyes out right now? He's speaking metaphorically. I mean, you know, that way we won't have to pluck our own eyes out. And so, you know, people have referred to this verse many times. If your eye causes you to sin, you know, like by looking at naughty pictures or something like that, you should pluck your eye out. But Jesus knows, number one, that we're all sinners. All right. He knows that everyone he's talking to is a sinner. And if it's young men, because he was like the Jordan Peterson of his time as well, Jesus was. Young men flocked to him looking for advice. And he'd say, you know, if you're looking at naughty pictures, you know, that somebody drew in Sanskrit or something like that, it was Sanskrit Subtitles. You know, if you're looking at those kind of things, then obviously both of your eyes are involved. And so it's like, I think even Jesus had a level of compromise. It's like, well, I'm not asking for two eyes. Because, you know, after all, every time one eye looks at something, the other one's looking at it too. Unless you're cross-eyed, I guess. But I think Jesus knew. Welcome to Shock Monkey Radio. I'm your host, the Madman. I've got a couple of goofy jokes just to start things, break the ice. As I say, I want to remind you again that I have a Patreon. Go to, over here, patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. Or you can send me money through Cash App. Use the hashtag shockmonkeyradio. I would appreciate it. You know, it's always weird looking at myself in a monitor because it's always backwards from what I'm used to. It's not like in a mirror where my hand goes up and touches this side. It's, whoa, that's on the other side. So I can't get my left from right. So over here, we have my social media where you can follow me if you like. What do I post on those things? You know, like memes I like, I suppose. That's about it. You know, you can follow me if you like. Ask me questions. Try to slide in my DMs, as I say. All right. You know, I was thinking about how I hate that South African guy that talks funny. What's his name? He talks funny. South African guy. I used to think he was really cool. Not Elon Musk. Dave Matthews.
What?
Dave Matthews. Yeah, why'd you leave South Africa, Dave? David. Why? Why'd you leave? Anyway. See, like I said, I have two crappy jokes just to break the ice. Anyway, ready for the show? Hey, you remember Superbook? Cue image. You remember Superbook? I don't know if you remember this. Cue image. Oh. In case answering texts. Busy man. Superbook. There was a show that I was on when I was a kid, and it's about these kids in this like clockwork robot that have like the entire text of. It was like early smartphone, I suppose, had all the text of the Bible in him. And so they would take the Superbook and they would travel to Bible stories, just to look around. You know, they go and see like David and Goliath and they're like, wow, everyone's like 5'4", 5'5". You know, there's so many more hormones in these food in our modern age and people don't understand that. Goliath was only like 6'2", but if everyone was like 5'4", you know, everyone was like 5'4", then, you know, of course, you know, the guy 6'2" is going to look like a giant, you know. And he beats everybody based on reach alone. You know, and David comes in and is like, I'm going to use a sling. I'm like, oh, what a brilliant tactician. Stay away from the guy with the long arms. You know, and you even look at Goliath. You go back in time and look at these Bible stories, you know. You look at Goliath and you're like, man, he's all elbows and knees. You know what I mean? He's like, I don't know, he's like a 10-speed bicycle stretched out. And so but I would think from time to time, even at that young age, watching this children's show, you know, it's like, what if you went back and like stopped the crucifixion? You know, stop the crucifixion from happening. Superbook is almost like a beginner's entrance into time travel and stuff like that. It's like, should you be going back in time and stopping the crucifixion from happening? I don't think so. I don't think that's probably a good idea. So these kids were playing with fire. They should have told an adult about this magical book they got. This is super weird Bible they found. That transports you. It's like, look, I saw a donkey talking to a guy that was beating him the other day. All right. This book is weird. And I know a lot of people, they don't really like entertainment that's based upon like the religious stuff and Bible stories and stuff like that. I mean, my most recent thing I think of is one episode of Rick and Morty where they're making fun of like the greatest story ever told, and like, oh, it's not the greatest story ever told. And it's like, I think it is. You know, it's kind of awesome when you think about it. You know, a guy parts the Red Sea, you know, and you know, you perform miracles, seeing miracles happen. You know, it's funny because you could sit there and you go back to the Battle of Jericho. You know, you could sit there and you could watch, and it's like, oh, I see. Every time he rounds the city, he sends in another couple of sappers into the walls. And the trumpet blast was a signal. It's simple military strategy. And so you can go back and like look at these things. And I thought it was like a cool, like, I don't know, fantasy experience. If you wanted to go back and like, you know, check things out that are in the Bible. They never had a Revelation episode, I don't think. I don't know. It was geared towards kids. They probably no Revelation episode. Even though they'd do things like Daniel in the lion's den or something like that. And they're like, yeah, Christians being persecuted and fed to the lions. That's what we are, Christians. Once upon a time, people fed us to lions. So, I mean, it's interesting because it's geared towards children, but, you know, in many ways, the Bible is a very, like, adult book. Anyway, so I was just accessing those memories. I wanted to document it for posterity, as I remember that show. And from what I understand, there's still, like, iterations of it that happened after the 80s. You know, I was thinking about this. I was trying to remember the Superbook song, theme song, because sometimes this thing's stuck in your head. And all the 80s, like, theme songs was just repeating the title over and over again with, like, maybe one rhyme. It's like, Superbook, 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 take a look. It was like that or something. The little Elton John in there as well. But I mean, in the 80s, that's all it was. And we loved it. We loved it. And I love this because, I don't know, because I read the Bible when I was a kid. Read it several times over my life. And it never ceases to amaze me. Like, because there's, you know, there's giants, there's talking donkeys. It reads like Shrek, a Shrek script. Anyway, I just wanted to go over that. So we'll move on to the next story. You can take the image away.
Is the next story?
Next story, we're not talking about the movie yet.
Okay.
Yeah, we will get to a movie. I watched a movie, of course. So I made that video this last week about the horses. Again, another video about horses. And somebody said to me, hey, Madman, say in a perfect world, you take over the United States government, you know, maybe even all of North America, and you decide to wipe out all horses in North America, and you like lead them to slaughter pens and just like start killing them and like buy glue and build a big glue factory there or something. Say that happens. And then next thing you know what's going to happen? The price of horses is going to skyrocket. The price of horses is going to, you know, incredibly go up in value. And so the next thing you know, you got cartels, you got evil organizations all over the world, in the third world, and, you know, you got North Korea breeding horses, you got Iran breeding horses, you got Russia breeding horses, and they're making a pretty penny because you decided to wipe out all the horses out of North America. And, you know, that does put me in an interesting conundrum. You have a very good point. It's almost like the what's that? The paradox of half distances, where you never actually get to a place because you're always shooting for halfway. You only move to get to one point to another. You need to get half that, and then if you get there, you need to do half that, et cetera, et cetera. And so, Madman, basically, this guy is saying, Madman, there's no possible way you could wipe out all the horses. It was like, well, okay, well, if I already took over all of North America, one can assume that I'm on a path to take over the rest of the world as well. One can assume that I'll one day have total world domination, and then everyone will obey me, and we'll all kill the horses together. You know, make a holiday out of it or something like that, the day of the last horse or something. And be like a week of feasting. And we can have fun with that. And And even in that case, you'd have rebels, you'd have insurgents, you'd have like people who would like breed horses in secret. And I could spend my retirement years, hunting down rebels who are breeding horses in secret. That sounds kind of like a life well lived, if you ask me. So when people keep trying to like debate me in logic about why horses aren't evil all the time, and I'm just like, yeah, evidence after evidence. I keep putting it out there, and people just don't buy into it. I don't get it. Why can't you trust me on this? Anyway. I want to talk about a serious subject. It might make you uncomfortable, might make me uncomfortable. It's going to be uncomfortable. And so I was watching a police body cam footage, and I saw this black guy, his girl just dumped him. She's like, telling him, I don't want to see you anymore. And so he's all upset and fighting the cops, and he's saying stuff like, man, just shoot me. He's like, really fighting these cops. And when he says like, when he says stuff like, just shoot me, I want to die, I kind of believe that guy. All right. I've had broken hearts myself. I've felt that way myself. And so I can kind of empathize. And so I was kind of wondering, is like, I started thinking back through my life, like black guys. I've never had a black guy come to me and say, man, I'm depressed like all the time. I don't want to go on living. Doesn't seem like there's any meaning to life, certainly not to my life or anything like that, And I guess that just means that I'm not the kind of guy that black people will consider a confidant, because it's unreasonable to think that they are never depressed. I mean, it's just that people like me are far more vocal about their depression than, say, black men or any kind of culture that has where machismo is an important aspect, like Italians, like Hispanics. You probably don't see a lot of them saying like, I'm depressed. I'm depressed. Yo estoy depresto. I don't know. I didn't get that far in Spanish class. And so I was wondering, if sometimes, when you hear about these stories about these gangs shooting each other, or these people that are killing each other in like the streets of Chicago or Baltimore or something, these Americans killing each other. And you see these body cam videos of these young men fighting the cops. It's because their culture or their thinking on the matter is that if I just take a gun in my basement and do what I want to do, then I'm going to look like a loser, a coward, and stuff like that. But if I fight the cops and I get shot by the cops, if I fight a rival gang and get shot by the rival gang, then I have courage. I look like a man. And so forth. And so I started thinking maybe, this is the way that, black men are killing themselves these days. This is the way that black men are committing suicide. And I think that that's a sad thing. I mean, like I said, I've gone through depression myself. I've gone through suicidal thoughts and actions myself. And it makes me feel sad that I had the opportunity or the culture, where I felt comfortable expressing how I felt to people and therefore was able to get help from people in order to help treat my depression. But if you live in a culture where you have no one to talk to about these kinds of feelings, and you feel like you want to end it, there's I don't know, because people, you understand you're going to be remembered, and you don't want to be remembered as the guy who took a bunch of pills and fell asleep. You don't want to be that guy. You want to go out with a legacy of heroism. You'll go out there, you'll shoot another gangbanger, and the gangbanger's friend will shoot you, and then, all your gang members get their tattoo of your name and date on them, or something like that. And that's somehow better. And so my heart goes out to everyone out there who is suffering from depression and sadness, and feel free to talk to somebody, even if it's not me. I understand if you don't want to talk to me about it, but feel free to talk to somebody about it, because, it's, these people, it's nobody really wants to die unless, you're really, really at that point. It's like even gangbangers, I guess, mentally, healthier gang members, they don't want to die. But if you're a gangbanger and your girlfriend dumps you or something like that, and you feel like you're never going to get out of the hood or something like that, there's no way, whatever you're thinking or feeling, can't look at that as like an option out. And so it may make you uncomfortable to think about, but just think about that. Ask your friends, you feeling okay? You doing all right? And just to let you know, I talked to a black friend about this before I decided to do it on the show. And he said to me, well, maybe they don't have people that they can talk to about these things. And I said, that's kind of my point. If you don't have somebody that you trust enough, it's hard to make friends in a world where you're, constantly slinging drugs and, fighting everybody. It's hard to find anybody to trust that well, to let them see you that vulnerable. And that's kind of my point. It's like they don't want to be seen as vulnerable, and so they do something like that. Anyway, my heart bleeds for you people. My heart bleeds for you. All right, let's cheer it up a little bit with a very dark movie called Badland. It's a 2019 film. I had the wrong date written down. Badland, and that guy Joe Morton. He plays Max in the movie. Really, this is like one of the only pictures I could find of this movie, because you know what? There are like 500 movies called Badland, Badlands, The Badlands, The Bad Space Lands. There's so many of them. Bad title. Okay, so first, right off the bat, you got a bad title. But there's not a whole lot of he's the only real actor I recognized, and even then I had to look up his name. His name's Joe Morton. There's a Grace Caroline Curry's in it. The main male lead is Jamie Draven. There's Vanessa Shaw and Chandra West. Those are the biggest names. How can I put this? It has a hell of a first act. A hell of a first act. So the main character playing Jerry, he's a veteran who's back from, Iraq. He's back. He's trying to take care of his family, and his wife is awful. She's an awful person. And he's got 3 kids, and she's pregnant with a 4th. And he's, not being dealt with squarely at his job, and he's not making enough money. She's always on his case for not making enough money, And he's going through all his PTSD stuff, and he's crying in the bedroom. She's yelling at him. It's like, stop crying. Stop crying, you baby. She's awful. She's an awful person. And then he finds that she had been stashing cash, hoarding cash on him. He discovers it, and then that morning he's sitting at the breakfast table and he's smoking a cigarette with that that roll of cash on the table and a pistol under a newspaper, that kind of thing. And eventually, his kids wake up and they file out, and he just doesn't respond to them at all. Finally, his wife gets up. She discovers the cash is gone because she hid it in her bra, And so, but she sees it on the table, and she's like, "Oh hell, we're gonna have to talk about this." But he's getting a phone call from work saying, it's like, "Oh, he ripped me off. He did this. He did that. His boss is mad at him. He's calling," and so she's saying on the phone about Jerry, saying, "Yeah, he should have got killed over there. We'd all be a lot better off." So he pulls out the pistol and shoots her in the head. Like I said, it's a hell of a first act. And to make matters worse, he immediately walks outside, and his 2 sons, named Stevie and Ray, they say, "Dad," and he turns and fires a pistol at them, kills both of them. Like I said, a hell of a first act. Then he turns the pistol towards his daughter, and pulls the trigger, the round misfires. Like a professional soldier, he clears the chamber quickly, loads another one in there, and he points it at her, but it's long enough for her to say, "No, Daddy, please. No, Daddy, please." And then he can't do it. Then he puts the gun to his head, and she grabs a hold of him and says, "Don't, no, Daddy, no." And so he can't do it. All of a sudden, immediately, he's like, I'm done killing. All right, like I said, it's a hell of a first act. It really is. All right, and the rest of the story is mostly him trying to evade the law and taking his daughter with him. pretending like he killed her at the river or stuff like that. That's where the dogs lose the scent and stuff like that. He left a bloody rag down there so they could make him think that they both died in the river. And so he, anonymously works his way into this job, working as a cook in this little diner. And what's his name? Joe Morton? Yeah, Joe Morton. He comes back from the war. He had just got back, and at this time, Jerry's working at the diner, and he gets to talking with the guy, and the guy, they're talking. They had similar experiences in Iraq. They're all a little messed up from it and stuff like that. And so Joe Morton here, he plays the guy coming back from Iraq. Is actually the sheriff of the town, and so he starts up doing his job again. But he's having problems doing it because of his PTSD, he's smoking too much, drinking too much, and he kind of forges a friendship with Jerry. And I don't want to spoil the rest of it, but I mean, it's kind of a really interesting study into the PTSD symptoms. These poor guys coming back from war and how rough the transition is, and all the problems that can go with the risks. But the problem with this movie is that first of all, it's kind of long, 2 hours and 45 minutes. It looks like, I think, and they pull a St. Elsewhere on you at the end. And, I really don't like those kinds of things. Like, why can't you let the tragedy be a tragedy? And they had to back it up. They did a St. Elsewhere, and they're like, oh, see, it's one bad decision, and it's kind of the point. They did it beautifully. Don't get me wrong. They did it beautifully. But the idea is that, these dark paths your life could take within a series, like a couple of bad decisions, or a couple of evil decisions even, and all the tragedy that could befall you and people around you if you make a couple of bad decisions. And I think they did that fairly well, but it is a St. Elsewhere. It is all that didn't really happen, backing up kind of thing. And I don't like that kind of stuff. I said, let the tragedy be the tragedy. That scene in the end at the intersection, boom, that should have rolled credits right after that. All right. Because murder is a vicious thing. It is. Obviously it is. We all know that. But I mean, I like movies that, show the consequence of, doing such horrible things. I mean, I really did like this movie, but it was long, even though I couldn't consider anything I would cut, but because, I think this guy, Joe Morton, he did a hell of a job acting, as this PTSD sheriff who's having a hard time adjusting to his new but similar job, and so, I thought it was really, really well done. And fantastic tragedy. They backed out at the last minute. And I don't like that. Plus, it all takes place in Wyoming. So, Badland, 2023 movie. 2019 movie. 9 of 13 stars. It's freaking Wyoming. All right, let's get into the news worth knowing. We're ahead of schedule. That's all right. All right, let's talk about Hunter Biden, I guess. I wanted to light a cigarette. Reflex. Reading the news, I want some nicotine in me. Keep my mind sharp. You know how productivity is the big boom after the war, the Second World War? Everyone was smoking in the offices. All the secretaries typing away, jacked up on nicotine. Nicotine and caffeine, you know what I mean? A productive society. It's a smoking society. Or at least a caffeine society. Anyway, so Hunter Biden makes shocking appearance at his own contempt hearing. All right. It's perfectly legal to do that. He has every right to do that. Why wouldn't he? Because I think his whole point was we should do this publicly. So Hunter Biden unexpectedly appears, I don't know how unexpectedly appeared with his attorneys at the House Oversight Committee's meeting Wednesday morning to consider a resolution that, if passed, would set up a full House vote on whether to hold him in contempt of Congress for defying a congressional subpoena as part of the House impeachment inquiry against President Biden. The House Oversight Committee met for markup Wednesday at 10 a.m. to consider the resolution that recommends contempt proceedings against the first son after he refused to comply with a subpoena compelling him to appear for a closed-door deposition before the House Oversight and Judiciary Committees. First son. Well, wouldn't you capitalize that? I would think you'd capitalize that, right? Anyway, minor editing note. Maybe we should call this segment Madman Edits the News. Biden and his attorneys, Abe Lowell and Kevin Morris, came to the Capitol Hill and sit in the audience as lawmakers on the panel considered whether to pass the resolution out of the committee. Biden and his attorneys ultimately left for the vote on the resolution. So it's just a show. In the chaos that unfolded as Biden walked out, reporters peppered him with questions. I'm sorry. I've read ahead. Reporters peppered him with questions while an unidentified man shouted at him, "Are you on crack today?" Oh, I love this country. The House Judiciary Committee is holding a similar markup on the measure recommending Biden be held in contempt of Congress. If the resolution advances out of the committee Wednesday, sources said a full contempt of Congress vote on the House floor will take place in the coming days. Quote, our investigation has produced significant evidence suggesting President Biden knew of, participated in, and benefited from his family cashing in on the Biden name. House Oversight Committee Chairman James Comer from Kentucky said in a statement. We planned to question Hunter Biden about the record evidence during our deposition, but he blatantly defied two lawful subpoenas. Comer also said Hunter Biden's willful refusal to comply with the committee's subpoenas is a criminal act that constitutes contempt of Congress and warrants referral to the appropriate United States Attorney's Office for a prosecution as prescribed by law. Yeah, we all remember this has happened a few weeks ago with Hunter Biden. He just wants to make it public, and they said, it's the law, that's the subpoena. And so, no matter what James Comer said, there still has to be a vote to hold him in contempt. I mean, that's just how Congress works. And like I said when this first broke, it's like, either way we're going to get it. So I don't know if he's just stalling, like wait until after the election or something like that to go through all this. So I think that's probably the thing that's going on here. They're just stalling. So we'll see if anything at all comes of that or the Epstein list. All right, let's go on to this next story. Nevada judge rejects Trump ballot eligibility challenge, says GOP opponent improperly manufactured standing. So a federal judge in Nevada rejected a case challenging the eligibility of former President Trump to run in 2024, ruling GOP challenger John Anthony Castro, who brought the lawsuit in the Silver State, lacks standing. Excusez-moi. U.S. District Judge Gloria M. Navarro, who was appointed by former President Obama, issued the order Monday dismissing Castro's lawsuit that had ultimately asked if the U.S. Constitution's 14th Amendment bars Trump from holding office over his alleged incitement of the January 6th Capitol riot. This is a politically charged question of significant interest to the American public, Navarro noted. For reasons discussed below, the court finds that Castro lacks standing, and the court therefore lacks jurisdiction to hear the case. To have standing to sue in federal court, a plaintiff must have suffered a concrete, particularized, or actual or imminent injury, in fact, that was caused by the defendant's challenged conduct and is readdressable by a favorable decision, Navarro explained. This limitation on the judicial power prevents a plaintiff from invoking Article III jurisdiction of federal court by asserting what is merely a general interest common to all the members of the public. The ruling noted that the 5 courts have already rejected Castro's political competitor standing argument. Quote, in rejecting his political competitor standing arguments, courts have found that Castro improperly manufactured his standing merely to file this lawsuit, Navarro writes. The evidence indicates that Castro is creating his own injury in order to manufacture standing to challenge Trump's eligibility to run for president. The judge observed that by his own admission, Castro, quote, declared as a candidate and paid a filing fee to show the impermissibility of Trump's presidency. The ruling cited how Castro was quoted in an Associated Press article having said, quote, I am not going to lie and pretend my candidacy is anything more than trying to enforce the United States Constitution, and that's what I'm here to do. In a footnote, Navarro highlighted that Trump and Castro were not even competing on the same ballot in Nevada. Quote, as Castro indicates in his FAC, the Nevada Republican Party is holding caucus separate from the state-run presidential primary, presidential preference primary, Castro intends on running the Nevada Republican PP. The footnote says Trump is not participating in the PP and is instead appearing on the caucus ballot. So a judge appointed by Obama, interested in justice. How about that? I think that's what needs to happen is like these judges need to stop putting up with all this nonsense. Start going back to being impartial and understanding a political court filing from, a realistic one. But that's only Nevada. There's still like 20 states to go where people are trying to get him off the ballot. Which only goes to show like how scared they are of him. It's like, yeah, your little fantasy land might be over one day. Anyway. So let's talk about things that are really ruining this country. People want to pretend it's Trump, but it's more stuff like this. So 11 arrested, kilos of fentanyl, cocaine recovered in major operation against Florida drug trafficking rings. A multi-agency investigation led to the arrest of 11 people in Florida and the seizure of enough fentanyl to kill more than 1.7 million people, Polk County Sheriff Grady Judd said. Judd's office worked with federal, state, and local law enforcement to combat two Central Florida drug trafficking rings, known as the Colon Drug Trafficking Organization and the Espinosa and Romero Central Florida Drug Trafficking Organization. Quote, "We're fighting a battle that we've got to win," Judd said during a press conference on Tuesday. Fentanyl is killing people by the thousands across the country. Yes, it is. The operation led to the seizures of 14 kilos of cocaine, 3.5 kilos of bulk fentanyl and fentanyl pills, along with 4 firearms, a vehicle, and $12,985 in U.S. currency. No coins. Polk County Sheriff's Office said in the news release. All 10 men and 1 woman are arrested legally in the United States, with most of them being of Puerto Rican descent, Judge said. Many of them have criminal history backgrounds. PCSO said detectives have arranged to buy a kilo of cocaine from Pedro Bemba Romero in Haines City in November of 2023. Romero allegedly took his drug supplier, 44-year-old Maximo Espinosa of Kissimmee, with him to the transaction. Oh, man. Investigators discovered Espinosa was operating a drug trafficking organization between the Northeast U.S., South Florida, Puerto Rico, and Mexico, trafficking cocaine and fentanyl, authorities said. Espinosa has been previously been arrested by federal authorities for armed trafficking heroin, according to PCSO. Additional meetings with numerous suspects occurred over the course of the investigations, which were conducted with the assistance of the State Financial Assistance for Fentanyl Eradication, SAFE, program managed by the Federal Department of Law Enforcement. The Florida legislature established SAFE funding last year to combat illegal fentanyl trafficking. So that's why you're seeing this in Florida, is because of people like Ron DeSantis and stuff like that. States that are taking this stuff seriously, and we need to take this stuff seriously. And, you can say all you want about the immigration issue, but the issue I'm more worried about is all the drugs that are coming over the border now. After all the immigration, all these people that are flooding across the border are distractions for Customs and Border Protection, and so the drugs are getting in. The material is getting in. And we're making, fentanyl so cheap on the streets here in the United States that, it's people are using it more often, because it's the cheapest. And that's dangerous. It's just incredibly dangerous. And China's laughing their asses off, I thought I put the power off. Anyway. Not really. Powering through here. All right, be short show. Doesn't matter. So women rage against preteen, quote, Sephora Kids on social media. Store employees talk about, quote, mean girl antics. Sugar and spice and everything nice. Customers and employees of popular beauty retail chains like Sephora and Ulta are taking to social media to air grievances against the influx of preteen girls wreaking havoc in stores. Quote, "It's not the fact that they're little girls in Sephora because makeup is subjective. There's no age limit to it." Sequoia Cothran, a Sephora employee from Tennessee, told Fox News Digital. "It's more about that these girls are what these girls are reaching for when they're in these stores. It's also the way they're treating the workers within it," the 21-year-old added. "You see these kind of mean girl antics from these 10-year-olds. In recent weeks, the video sharing app TikTok has been flooded with viral posts from women discussing their personal experiences being bullied, quote unquote, bullied by preteen girls aged 9 to 12, dubbed, quote, Sephora Kids, while shopping for beauty products. Current and former employees have also shared stories about dealing with these young customers, saying that they make a mess of the stores, display rude attitudes when they don't get what they want, and strong arm their parents into spending hundreds of dollars on products. Oh my God. Quote, you see this aggressive demeanor towards older people, Catherine said. This level of disrespect that you've never seen from a child to a woman, like they just simply do not care. You're making it seem like it's okay to be mean to older people when you say stuff like that. Anyway, Catherine said she witnessed Sephora Kids, quote unquote Sephora Kids, push other customers out of the way to reach a product first, open and contaminate sealed products without buying them, and have them abruptly interrupted while she was helping other customers. In several viral TikToks on the subject, women call for beauty stores to impose an age restriction to enter, banning anyone under the age of 18. That's something I can get behind. Catherine said the issue stems from social media's influence, which is the reason girls are flocking to Sephora, all seeking out the same products. Geez, they're sheep, aren't they? They're all following a trend, she said. I think that's where we're seeing this fascination come from. Dr. Brooke Jeffy, a dermatologist who posts TikToks about skincare, weighed in on young girls' growing obsession with beauty products intended for adults, saying the phenomenon is definitely concerning. Extensive, expensive skincare routines. Geez, are they trying to make this into a tongue twister article? Extensive, expensive skincare routines and makeup has become a status symbol for Generation Alpha, driven by a desire to fit in with peers. Jeffy told Fox News Digital. She also blamed influencer culture and brands as most culpable. Social media filters have created unrealistic expectations for perfect, poreless skin, fueling sales of makeup to kids, the dermatologist added. Add to that the fear of aging, modeled by influencers, parents and friends, and the desire to anti-aging skincare is born. She said it is most concerning behaviors among preteen girls for the use of retinol, exfoliating acids, and multi-step regimens, and she said they are way too harsh for their normal healthy skin. I am concerned not only by the damage these kids are doing to their skin with products, but they are inappropriate for their skin, but also psychological consequences, and so being focused on appearance at such an early age. Newsflash, adults don't handle this well either. Okay? All right? There are people who are over 18 that don't know how to deal with like social media culture. They I don't know, they can't they compare themselves constantly to other people that are so trending on social media and stuff like that. Adults don't handle this well either. So the point is like, you know, be who you are naturally, you know. I think I've said this before. It's like when you all follow the same makeup regimen, when you all follow the same makeup routine, you all look the same. And that's not attractive. All right? Jesus, I remember being like in the 90s, some girl sitting there was like, oh, my nose is too big. I want to get a nose job. It's like, don't get a nose job. Your nose is unique. I like your nose. Didn't you ever see that movie Roxanne with Steve Martin? Have some personality. Have some distinction. Be unique. But no, you're all watching the same TikTok makeup tutorials, making you all look the same, like clowns. Like clowns. You look like clowns sometimes. You have so much makeup on. You got crazy stuff going on in your eyelids and stuff. What are you doing? Plus, you know, teenage girls, you know, preteen girls my niece's age, being rude to adults. You know, spare the rod, spoil the child. You know, a lot of these kids today have never been spanked, never smarted out to their mom. She swats at you, you dodge, and bang your head against the coffee table. And I got a scar up here because I dodged my mom's slap and banged my head into the coffee table. That's what you get for having good reflexes. It would have been better to be slapped. And so I think that's what happened. These kids are spoiled rotten. Anyway, want to do a little funnier stories? I know I laugh about all these horrible stories. I know no one's ever commented on it, but people say like you'll sit there and read a horrible line or something like that. They'll giggle at it. And it's like, I know that's how I deal with these things. But these are genuinely funny and interesting. Here we go. There's a ratatouille in a guy's garage. So, mouse shocks millions on internet by cleaning up man's shed overnight. It's all caught on video. What does this guy live in? Disney character? To sing songs the whole time. A mighty mouse. Ugh. What puns. A mouse is making sure a man's workspace is as organized as possible. Rodney Hallbrook, 75, a retired mail carrier, noticed that some things were changing position in his shed from day to day. The Wales resident told the Animal News Agency that his mouse has been tidying up his space for about 2 months now. What are you paying him? What kind of benefits do you get? Anyway, at first I noticed that some food I was putting out for the birds was ending up in some old shoes I was storing in the shed. Oh, that's a good clue right there. So Holbrook decided to put a camera in his home's outdoor shed to see what was happening when he wasn't around. Shockingly, Holbrook saw that a mouse was cleaning up his space by picking up clothes pegs, screwdrivers, plant pot trays, corks, and more from his workbench and putting them into a box in the middle of the workbench. This mouse has OCD, man. It got into my Ritalin stash, man. The video, Holbrook said, was shocking to him. I couldn't believe it when I saw the mouse was tidying up, said the Animal News Agency. It's amazing to see the footage. Some of the things that it tidies away are really unusual. Now, Holbrook says that he doesn't even bother trying to tidy up at the end of the day because he knows the mouse will do it for him. The mouse is making you lazy, man. You need to put out some traps. Next thing you know, you're going to want them in your house. Put them on top of your little Roomba. I don't know. I know he'll see to it, he said. I know he'll clean up. Right. Tyree says the mouse appears almost every night, and as he's currently working on a DIY project in the shed. I think he would tidy my wife away if I left her in there. Ha, hardy har har. Holbrook said Animal News Agency that he nicknamed the rodent Welsh Tidy Mouse. Welsh Tidy Mouse. Okay. I don't get it. So, yeah, we need to breed this mouse with as many mice as possible. That's what I think. I mean, that's genetic mutation works. You know, you breed that one with a whole bunch of mice. Then maybe in a few generations, you'll get one even smarter. One that knows how to turn on your Roomba. Make you a sandwich. You ever see that Key and Peele sketch where he's like, I got a ratatouille. Oh, yeah. What? I got a ratatouille. It's like, ratatouille, go make him a sandwich. It comes out, he's got a sandwich, but it's like, there's a rat turd on it. And the guy's like, I don't believe that. It like storms off. And he goes, I also got lightning in a bottle. They were clever. That was clever. All right, let's talk about how much it would take for you to kill your dog. Ready for this? Dog shocks Pennsylvania family by chowing down on $4,000 in cash, shredded all over the room. A Pennsylvania couple's home improvement investment funds nearly went to the dogs. Puns are the lowest form of humor. When their pup made a snack out of the large sum of cash they'd pulled out to pay for the job. It was shredded all over the room. Carrie Law of Pittsburgh told Fox News Digital about the money. Quote, there was one area that was decently covered in bills. Some that had little puncture marks from him biting into it, she said of their dog. And a lot of it was missing, so we kind of figured he probably swallowed a good chunk of this money. Cecil, a 7-year-old golden doodle, has never done anything like this before, Law said. That's why it's kind of shocking, Law said. He is just such a goofy dog and such a sweetie. Did they take this interview before it happened? Because I would not be saying that directly after that happened. Maybe it's a day or two later. Maybe. It's Fox News Digital, so maybe they called them a day or two later. And you can forgive them. They'll be up in your face. They totally forgot what happened. And you're just like, I guess I got to forget it too. She went on to say he's 100 pounds, kind of a lap dog, but he loves leaning on people and getting belly scratches. Yeah, we know what dogs are. A lot of people describe him as having a human inside of him. You feed him human? I don't get it. The couple had just taken out $4,000 out of their bank and had just been sitting on the kitchen counter for about 30 minutes. We were planning. That's careless on your part. That's a lot of money to have, like, not in an attaché case. If I'm getting $4,000 out of the bank, I want it in ones and I want it in an attaché case. And handcuffs. I want to handcuff myself to it. Anyway, they left it on the counter for about 30 minutes. We were planning on paying for the landscaping project in cash. So they would have said $5,000 if you weren't paying cash, I bet. I was working on the other end of the house, and all of a sudden I hear my husband, Clayton, yelling that Cecil is eating the money. That's a very polite way to say this. Honey, this mother dog just eating all the cash, and I'm going to kill it. Bring me my gun. Calm down, honey. Calm down. I just want to hold the gun for a little while so I know that if I wanted to, I could kill this dog. It just didn't even register because nothing had been remotely. He's never done anything like that in his life. It's not making sense, but it's obvious what had happened. Law said that Cecil just stood there looking at them. Yeah, did not seem fazed at all. Yeah, he doesn't understand what it is. He doesn't understand how important it is. That's why you don't leave it around where a dog can get to it. We called the vet just to see what they would recommend. Why? It's like him eating like a sock. He's going to pass it. They said, you know, he's a big dog. He's 100 pounds. As long as he's acting normally and going to the bathroom normally and eating stuff, he should be fine. Yeah, way to waste your veterinarian's time. Cecil Law said, spent the afternoon. Jesus. Cecil, Law said, spent the afternoon playing, napping, and watching TV with a belly full of thousands of dollars. In the meantime, she decided to call the bank. What are they going to do? I said, you're going to think I'm crazy, but my dog ate my homework. But this is what happened. So what could we do? Law said. They were really nice about it and said they could tape the bills together if they had the majority of the left and right serial numbers present. They would be able to replace those bills, so he taped up the stuff that had been shredded on the floor. But in the middle of the night, the Laws got some more of their money back. I guess it was about 2 a.m. Oh, my Lord. 2 a.m. when we heard the telltale sign that your dog is going to get sick in the middle of the night. We noticed that he vomited up a lot of bills and decided it was worth cleaning us off and trying it to see what we could get back. I empathize, I understand, and I would do the same thing. It turned out to be a significant amount, and the bills were in pretty good shape despite everything. There are $100 bills in circulation today that have been in some dog's stomach. That's awesome. We decided it was probably worth following around the yard and picking up whatever he deposited. But I let my husband do that part, of course, because we're equal. All right, the unusual collection process took about 3 days, she said. We were collecting what he was dropping and also trying to put it together. Oh. All right, honey, bring the hose. Just start hosing it down and see if anything green pops out. Golly. Oh, my imagination hurts me. It's just a ridiculous puzzle because, yes, some of the pieces you don't know, or there are going to be pieces that are going to be coming out. This one's incomplete. If it's going to be a couple hours, or you're going to find it 2 days from now. Oh, here's the other one. Here's the other half of that one. So far, the Laws have recouped around $3,500 from the bank. That's not bad. I just brought it in a plastic bag. It was very clear to what happened to it in case anyone was going to touch it. They replaced those bills right away, and they were great. There's still a plastic bag with approximately $300 to $400 in it. There's mostly bits and corners of bills that are simply too far gone to save. We'll probably frame a couple of bills. Yeah, do that. We'll probably frame a couple of the bills just because it's so wild and funny at this point. Yeah. Cecil, for that part, seems no worse for wear. He's totally fine. We've never had any issues. We were never mad at him or anything. I don't believe you. I don't believe you. We were just so shocked, even that night, before he'd thrown up or anything like that. We were just laughing because he's sitting on the couch watching TV. We're just laughing. This dog had so much money inside of him right now, and there's nothing we could do about it. I suppose you could cut him open. I'm kidding. But seriously, how much like cash would your dog have to eat before you seriously consider killing him? Being so mad. $4,000 is pretty close to that number, if you ask me. But if they recruit $3,500, you're totally talking about $500. But even $500, that's a lot of money. You got to get the cheaper grass seed, babe. Oh my God. You love them stupid, but you're like, what? They're so dumb. Like, the dog has no memory of it. You know, he already forgot it. You know, here I am talking about it. This probably happened weeks ago. Dog has no memory of it. Anyway, I want to remind you again, I have a Patreon. Go to patreon.com/shockmonkeyradio. Become a patron today. I would appreciate that. You can also send me money through Cash App. Use the cash tag shockmonkeyradio, all one word. Or you can follow me on social media. Search for me at the Knowledge Saw, Shock Monkey Radio Redux on Facebook, and at SLRobbins13 on Instagram. Yeah, so this has been Shock Monkey Radio. I'm the Madman, and I love you.